So what we all need now is we need a paper and we need a pen of some sort. Ultimately, if we have different colors, that would probably be best. That way we can sort of keep things separated, but I'll kind of do my best to show you what we're going to do here. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is to parse your code visually, okay? It's if we look at a line of code, we want to sort of be able to follow the thinking here. And in this case, when we start using functions, our thinking is no longer going to be linear, right? We're not going to go step 1, step 2, step 3 as we work down the code. Instead, we're going to be kind of bouncing around all over the place. All right, so the way I would parse this first code right here is if I'm the computer, guys, what is the first thing the computer is actually going to read and do something about? Which line? Yes, box 234. So what I would like for you guys to do, and let me pick a color here, red. Okay, I want you to put a little 1. Oh my gosh, okay, a little 1 right next to it. I know, it really does need to be recalibrated, okay? All right, so box 234. Okay, so Python is going to read that, right? Our interpreter is going to read that. And the next line it's going to read is going to be which one? What's the next line it will read? Exactly. It's going to go back up. So what I'd like for you to do is take an arrow and you draw it up to here like this, okay? We're going to be following this. So I just put the 1 in there. I mean, you can put start whatever you want. You put A. It doesn't matter to me as long as we know essentially where we are going to start reading this code, okay? So Python will then take this information and it's going to move up and it's going to say definition box. And what Python is going to do is it's actually going to fill in these parameters here, right? It's not going to fill in LWH. What information is it going to put in there? And that is, I'm going to switch colors here, is that it is going to actually read this definition as follows. It's going to read it as box, okay, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that's what I want you to put in there, whatever information is our parameter here, okay? And the way it's going to do that is it's going to calculate our box vol here. And I'll see if I can underline that, right? And it's really going to do this by doing the following, right? It's going to take 2 times 3 times 4. Python is going to calculate that, and it's going to give us the answer 24. Okay? All right. Now what Python is going to do, it's going to read the next line. It's going to say print the volume of the box is box vol. So whatever this value is right here is going to come along, and it is going to be placed right in there. All right. And that's our first parsing right there. That was nice and simple. We didn't do a return. I'm not going to make you do it for each one, but the idea is that we would then return back to here. So we do want to do that, okay? As soon as this thing is done, I'm going to switch colors once again. The last line of code is it's going to go from here, right? And it's going to come down and it's going to read this line of code. And then it's going to start that process all over again, but it's going to replace the box 234 with 111. It will then calculate 1 times 1 times 1, give us 1. It'll place that information in here. It'll print that line out, and then it will go down to the next line, box 4, 10, 900, and so on. Okay? So what we're really doing is sort of mapping what order is the computer going. Okay? I'm going to do one more with the return here, so you guys can see what that looks like. So let's do our function with return. Okay. So this one is a little more complex. And we'll go ahead and I'll just keep green that I'm using here. All right, so here's our function with return, so our next little program here. So the first thing that the Python's going to read, right, it's going to skip over this section because this is not asking it to execute, right? We're not calling that function here. That's just the function that it's going to call back to when we ask it. First thing we're going to do, right, is number 1. Oh, good grief. I really wish this worked better. We're going to start at cone 3, 9. Okay? So what's going to happen then is going to take that information and it's going to put those parameters into our function cone. So this becomes cone 3, 9. Okay. Then it's going to calculate that. So this becomes 3.14 times, what is it? R is 3 squared times 9 over 3, right, which is 3. And that's going to give us that number. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was 84 or something, right? 84 point X. I don't know what it is. Okay. Okay. From there, once it does that calculation, it's going to pull it out of here, right? And it's going to put it in this print function, cone volume. Okay. And then it's going to take cone volume again after that, and it's going to return that value. Okay. So basically what that means is at this point, this information is going to be temporarily stored. If we don't put that return in there, that information is not stored and we lose it. Okay. Okay, now that return volume, if we read our next line of code, right, from here, it's going to go right back to this, the cone 39. But rather than have to run that, right, entire thing, it's going to take that return value and it's going to plug it in here. Okay. So our return cone vol is going to actually become this information right here. It's going to be assigned to the cone, and then the cone will be printed here. And then we can also call back to it as many times as we need to, like here. Okay. So there's a lot going on. We're just trying to map, trying to keep track of where everything is going. So from now on, when I'm going to ask you guys to parse your code, this is going to be one of the things I'm asking. Now, there's no one way to do it. Some people like to color code things. Some people like to circle things, kind of come up with a way that works. But the general idea is we want to get the idea of where is this information going when we read these things. Some people just actually like to go through and number each line of the order they would do read, and that's fine as well. It's really not a problem. I'm a visual person, spatial person, so I like arrows to be able to follow the path. As you get to more branching things in the future, this will come in even more handy. And as you start nesting functions within functions or using a function that calls multiple functions, these become more and more handy to sort of keep track of everything. Some people are probably good at keeping track of these things in their head. I am not one of those people, nor are most people really. So that's why I'm kind of showing you this method here. Okay. All right, guys. I think that's pretty much all I really wanted to show you today. So I'm going to stop there.